So let me now pass the baton to Darina Pellowska. Darina is a research fellow at the Center for Humanitarian Action, which I believe is a very new organization established in Berlin. Her research interests include local leadership and participation, humanitarian access and diplomacy, and also information management in humanitarian contexts. So Darina, if you don't mind to turn on your camera and unmute your microphone, and then we can share your screen, or it may already be ready to go in the background, I believe, Conrad. So thank you. Over to you, Darina.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you so much for the opportunity to exchange with such a dedicated group of experts today. I'm really excited to be part of that. And well, especially because when I prepared for this presentation, before I read my fellow panelists' abstract, and it really struck me how we all want to understand the barriers towards locally led humanitarian action. And Marie already detailed how she found use in Foucault's concept of power and resistance. However, in my presentation today, I would like to focus more on the relational aspects of power in working environment. And I think it also kind of nicely fits into what Jahangir and Petra just presented about Oxfam's new partnership approach in the ELNA project, and how Oxfam as an INGO is striving to be more supportive and complementary rather than directive. So this new partnership approach is exactly where I would like to feed in and provide you with some theoretical insights from network theory. So I'm a network researcher, and hence I tend to see everything in life as being a product of nodes representing social actors and the ties representing the relationships between them. And if we cumulate those, they could create crazy social networks. I just brought a very simple one with me today here for my presentation. So if we take a network approach to humanitarian action as it has been traditionally implemented, we could see a bunch of humanitarian actors. For example, here, these could be donors, these could be INGOs, these could be national and local organizations, and these could be local communities and also people affected by crisis. And we see how some of them are a bit more well connected with other actors and others aren't. And this is exactly where networks theory defines power. So network theory defines power as a representation of the positionality of a certain actor within a network of relationship. And centrality is the key word here. So how many direct and indirect relationships does a certain actor have? And we see that here, for example, this one, this cute little guy, he has 5 direct connections. Whereas others really have to go through this actor and even others in order to reach out to one another. And what comes in addition in the humanitarian system is that, like Marie just also presented, that the structure and the way we work with each other, the tools, the systems, the templates, etc., they are imposed to us through a hierarchical waterfall system, where mostly donors and INGOs create nice reporting tools and nice project cycles and nice mechanisms, and then implement those on others without others having a lot of a say in this process. So this is my kind of network approach to the way we work currently. And if we feed this in to the humanitarian project cycle, we could see that here people affected by crisis are just asked to feed in their information and their needs and their values and wishes right at the start right at the start of a project and also towards the end when we have the feedback loop. And the whole other process is basically worked through by international organizations here, and also national and local organizations who work together with donors. So all in all, we could summarize that this is a highly ineffective and inefficient model, as it hardly is flexible and hardly accounts for the quickly changing needs of crisis-affected people. And it is also highly unjust and colonial and racist in the way that the modes of working together is implemented by some single actors on others. However, if we apply an agile approach instead of this hierarchical approach, this picture changes dramatically. So let me quickly explain what I understand to be agile. Well, agile management is the application of the principles of agility, or the principles of agile, which had been developed in the software industry, and it since then has been applied to various other sectors. For example, also Microsoft and Toyota are applying agile methods, for example, the lean methods, of which we just heard also yesterday. It applies to various management processes, and in particularly also to project management. And that's why it's also interesting for humanitarian work. So I just copied the 12 principles here. You don't need to read them all through, but the most important one is basically the first one, which says the customer comes first. So the highest priority is to satisfy the customer and to do everything what is needed to deliver towards to that end. And how do we do that? We should do it in a very flexible way, which is welcoming change even in very late stages of development. And we could do that in the very best way by working with experts who are self-organized in self-organized team, and to work together on an eye-to-eye level. They should do that focusing on direct face-to-face, but also in times of COVID, remote communication. But the emphasis here is on direct communication, one-on-one, instead of working through tools and reporting and other mechanisms. So it's about talking to each other. And if we do so, this now emphasizes that trust is key. So we put trust before control mechanisms and reporting mechanisms. And this then leads to a very simple way of working together, where we skip everything that is just a burden to us, and a burden to us working towards the delivery towards the highest goal of satisfying the customer's needs. In our sense, that these would be, of course, the people in need. So instead of an organization being conceived as a very efficient, steady state machine, which aims at exploiting existing predefined business models, an agile organization is more growing, learning, adapting. It's like an organism that is in constant flux to exploit new opportunities, to add new value for the customer. So instead of power trickling down, like in the on the slide I just showed to you, Agile tries to inspire those who are actually doing the work to accelerate innovation and add genuine value for the customer. This means that we need to give away autonomy, so control mechanisms and power, to self-organizing teams within a broad parameters of control. And it values transparency and continuous improvement. It is very open to conversations and inputs from others. Yeah, and if we now look into the network picture from before and apply the principles of agility, we will receive a very different picture. it really turns the decision-making tree on its head, and it puts the crisis-affected people and local communities first. And in addition to that, it adds various new relationships between all actors, so that everybody can talk to everybody. And here is a simplified model, which really shows it in a little bit more sensitive way, that suddenly everybody becomes equal in network terms. And if we apply this to the project cycle, we could see that many feedback loops are now introduced back to the customer being the people affected by crisis. And you might now say that this is very nice, but then we will get a very chaotic asymmetric model, and if everybody speaks to everybody, we need to have some sort of control here. And yes, you are right. Agility does introduce some coordinating roles, and I will show those here because they are highly different from others. So Agility introduces the so-called custom coordinator, who is responsible in getting and receiving all information and all needs from the customers, and then translates those for technical experts. The technical experts then work very independently, but on eye-to-eye level. And it is now the custom coordinator who becomes key in just translating between customers and technical experts. And then there is an additional role, which is called a process manager, who makes sure that everybody here has the right tools and infrastructure to deliver greatly on what is needed, and to deliver towards what the customers asked us for. So it's a more facilitative and less a directional role. It's just really an enabling role. And I hope you already can see where I want to get at. I could understand local NGOs as being more of a role of custom coordinator and also technical experts, and maybe INGOs like Oxfam take on the role more of the process manager, enabling the work of partners in the sense of for creation of viable frameworks and working conditions. So they promote each team member, i.e. each partner organization, according to their own needs, their own motives and strengths and talents, and ensures that this is enabling a good cooperation with people in need. Again, I want to emphasize that such a model really draws on trust, because disciplinary tasks like monitoring, accounting, evaluation, and budgetary control, etc., is not the task of the process manager. Process managers do not have any exposed decision-making or control role. The decisions are made where the knowledge and not where the power is, and that means here, and the control is actually the customers. So let me just quickly summarize. I hope you could understand that that came across that lean and agile research in humanitarian supply chain management, as it has been executed until now, is more than just proposing nice methods of handling the uncertainty and fluidity of humanitarian operating environments. It is more so a management style that is promoting locally led and people-centered humanitarian action by recreating the network in which we work in. And applying a more agile ways in project management can provide a solution to the localization blockade, because reshuffles the power. However, it's hard to implement such a way of working, as we just heard that powerful actors are very resistant. So as long as we continue to work in highly unflexible log frames, including highly static project objectives, it will be very hard to implement an agile way of working. But what we can do is actually zooming into these cute little dots here, which represent our organizations, and look into the way how we work together with each other. And this now is leading me back to work that Paul Knox Clark already did back in 2013, I guess, where he found that organizations themselves tend to work mostly in a hierarchical way, with individual leaders giving advice and taking the lead, and not working in a shared leadership, what he called shared leadership, where everybody could contribute equally. So I guess this is where we could start. And with these foods for thoughts, I'm handing back over to you, Daniel. Thank you.
Thank you, Darina. I think you explained something that's very complicated in a very clear way. So well done. I've learned a lot that I didn't know. And I can see there's a lot of questions coming up. We'll get to a few of them, and then I'm going to put the rest in the car park, and we'll come back to them after our final presenters. So just looking for a couple. There's one from Margareta Siriga. How does the compliance to donor, especially in financial matter, being adopted by the local partners, or do you come up with your own financial system that you can negotiate with the donor?
Yes, thank you. I think that really leads back to the very last point I made. Of course, it is hard to implement such an agile way of working when you're depending on an accountability system of donors. But I'm talking to you from Germany, and I can see that there's a little bit of more flexibility also popping up there with the German Foreign Affairs Ministry trying to allow more flexibility in project objectives, so we can adopt those throughout the project cycle. Again, this introduces a lot of administrative work and puts a lot of reporting and coordination pressure, but there is will to improve that. As long as we have to stick to those, we can just only start within our organizations. And I see that there's a lot of reporting and accountability mechanisms, even inside organizations, that could, of course, be simplified.
Great. There's two more questions. I think we'll just take one more minute on this, and then if your question hasn't been answered, we'll come back to them at the end. Two questions, both from Max Kelly, so I'm going to combine them into one. She's wondering how easy it would be to create trust in self-organizing teams, so essential to agile development. Who defines who the teams are? And then the second one is, does the very technical solutions-based focus of agile development create more imbalances in a system that's already driven by technical experts? Two great questions. Or we can probably come back to them in the discussion if we don't have time to answer them comprehensively now, but have a go.
Yeah, just very quickly. Well, I hope you remember that the custom coordinator was placed above the technical experts in my little slide. So it is really, I understand the concern, but those technical experts are to be guided by customers' needs, and so this role is really relevant.